Hello, it's nice to see everyone. There's so many people and I'm really excited. So, my name is Dave and I'm both a graphic and motion designer. This means that I'm still designer first when developing a concept, but tend to finish projects by incorporating motion. My practice is a balance between applying static graphic design principles while seeing them through cinematography. I discovered Letterpress through the School of the Art Institute of Chicago with Kathy Ruddy Saunders and Martha Chiplis. Alongside SAIC, I continue to learn about letterpress at Double Trip Press with Ryan Basile in Chicago. I did 2 letterpress classes at SAIC's Type Shop as an undergrad. During my second semester, I was able to fund the project I'm presenting about with the Caxton Book Club grant. So everyone always asks me, what does animation have to do with letterpress? Surprisingly, a lot. At school, I saw how many art majors crossed over into the world of letterpress. In class, there were designers, bookmakers, printmakers, and even textile artists. It was because of letterpress that I made the decision to study hand-drawn animation for a semester. I learned how to animate digitally first, so I had the same aha moment of, whoa, this is what letting is in InDesign? Except in my animation class, it was, oh, so this is what frames per second actually feels like. The animation that's currently playing is when I was learning how to animate 4-legged walk cycles. When my animation teacher asked me what creature I would animate, I did my best to explain that this creature came from my favorite ornament at the type shop. This is an example of being inspired by letterpress, but having the final product be more animation-based. An example of being more letterpress heavy, but still animated, is through my book, Cup of Joe. This book explores the conscious decision behind choosing a name. I compared my experiences in making a cup of coffee at home against my experience going to a coffee shop. With each page, I lowered the text to mimic the pressure applied to a French press. At the end, when I say my name, the coffee is filled where the wood type takes up the whole page. As a result, this book has a sense of frame-by-frame animation. Moving your registration, pica for pica, is the same feeling as trying to represent a small gesture on 24 pieces of paper. Regardless if I'm animating or printing, I end up being surrounded by stacks of paper that I'm desperately trying to keep organized. If the paper is too thick, it affects the pressure of my prints or the light trying to shine through my frames. Here, I have examples of different charts that I've made to keep track of all the small details that come with these 2 practices. I came to realize that both at the bed of the press and at the tracing table, I'm using position, scale, rotation, and opacity to figure out my design thinking. It was from this crossover that my Mutoscope project began. I wanted to see what else landed in between these 2 practices. So many designers are putting grainy filters or paper textures over their work to make it feel more alive. So I thought, why not do the real thing and see what happens? At first, I knew I could make a flipbook or scan prints, but I wasn't happy with those answers since it didn't feel like an even split. That ended up being the problem I faced the most. I kept getting tunnel vision by leaning too far into one of my practices to try and find the answers. When helping Ryan at Double Trip Press, he shared that an artist named Judith Poirier had printed directly onto strips of film, and that was the light bulb moment that I needed. At SAIC, my letterpress instructors continued to introduce me to printers trying to figure out the world of Vandermation. Barbara Tettenbaum and Marilyn Zanardo organized both a book and online collection of printmakers animating. Links will be provided to take a look at their works. From there on, I started researching animation devices that were invented prior to film, and I found the Mutoscope. I combined aspects of multiple commercial mutoscopes to create mine. It was important for my book to be exposed. Usually a mutoscope is like all bound up in a big box, metal or wood. So I wanted my book to be exposed so that the viewer could see the binding, prints, and feel everything in motion. I also have to give credit to my dad for helping me build this device. He helped me cut the wood and figure out the mechanics behind my concepts. And through my research, I was eager to discover that mutoscopes are the bookbinding practice of animation. This project left me with a device that embodies my design, printing, and animation practices. I used the book itself as a space to encapsulate the emotions I felt as a senior in college. The words, "I am here, not there," is a phrase I repeated to myself to stay grounded when I was starting to worry about the unknown ahead of me as a senior. Letterpress offers permanence of language, similar to how I was trying to capture a particular emotional state. I had to physically be present as a designer to choose my type and guide the words, "I am here, not there," through the press. The typefaces are based off the different places I felt pressure from. For example, I chose a royal script that looks like my handwriting when I write letters to my family in Poland. The main typeface, Clarendon, is what I use to represent how I see my voice. The imagery was made to look like a distant landscape and mimic a breathing technique that I use. I had turned the landscape vertical to better flow with the looping animation and to make a visual path. This path made me think of lungs or a throat that become present when taking a deep breath. During a moment of panic, the background and words constrict and flare around until the breath is held and released, which is when the words fade away and the negative space opens back up. Lastly, the colors stem from surrealism, since surrealists balance the representation of the physical and mental world. I was really trying to create a map to guide myself through my thoughts. This piece was by far the most interactive work I have made. I like to call it a micro installation. No matter where my book is presented, the viewer can rotate the handle with their finger and activate the space, be a part of the space. They become a part of the micro installation. They hear the pages flipping and feel the breeze from the flipbook in motion. The phrase, "I am here, not there," is presented in a perfect loop, allowing the viewer to ponder on these words for as long as they need. I hope for it to be a moment of reflection and becoming present for the viewer. After installing the first draft of this piece to the senior art show, I got a chance to watch viewers interacting with it. I didn't realize it at the time, but that's something I'm very grateful for. I learned that even though I cut out where the viewer's finger should go, many people still rotated the book wrong. Even when the pages restrict the wrong direction, people will force it backwards. Nonetheless, I stayed back and watched. Since it was interactive, I saw people touching the impressions of the pages. The mutoscope easily allows for the front and back of the book to be present at the same time. It's scary to let people touch your prints, and I won't always do this, but these specific prints are not meant to be framed on the wall. The most important moment was when I saw a small boy interacting with my mutoscope. I was standing back to write down people's reactions, and this little boy was very interested but nervous, until his father reassured him that the sign said it was okay to touch. As any kid would, his face lit up. He had to be on his tiptoes, and his eyes reached just above the pedestal, and just barely he reached the handle. But as he spun the book, he read aloud each word that popped up. His father ushered him away to the next piece. I wonder how long he would have stayed with this never-ending book. That's when I realized my prints were out in the real world, moving in the real world. This flipbook is a timestamp, a self-contained device. As a senior, it created the function of gauging oneself. It was a reminder to be in the present. But now, being graduated and looking back, spinning my mutoscope makes me feel like I'm printing at a Vandercook again. Thank you for your time.